Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Cohen here. There's my daughter, Imogen. Say hi, Imogen.
Hi,
What are you doing, Imogen?
I'm doing some fuse beads.
Fuse beads. Okay. Beautiful. And here's another member of my family. Uh, Come here, you silly dog. Come here. Bernice. Bernice, hi. Today I'm making a little video to talk about some more of the poems that I put in that packet of 5 poems. I made you a first video in the series about 2 weeks ago, and today I'd like to talk about 3 poems and just give you some ideas on how you might read them. The first one is Invictus. The next one is Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. And then finally, When Death Comes by Mary Oliver. Let's start with Invictus. This is a very straightforward poem. It's so famous. It's got 4 beats to it. It has a 4 beat line. It's tetrameter. And you can find the beats in each line. Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. It's a very kind of common line in poetry. 4 beats to it. I was looking at this one last time. This one's got 4 beats to it. Let's just concentrate on lines 2 through 6 here. When the sun is bright on the upland shores, when the wind stirs soft through the springing grass and the river flows like a stream of glass. You can hear it there. And the river flows like a stream of glass. 1, 2, 3, 4. Invictus has 4 beats too. I wanted to compare it to another poem, another 4 beat poem. Let me just get my papers all set up nicely here. This is a very famous poem called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. This poem is in perfect iambic tetrameter. It's going to go ba-da, 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 ba-da. You can hear it. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. It's so even. Each line has 4 of these beats that go ba-da, iambic. This one is a little bit different. It does not go out of the night that covers me. It goes out of the night that covers me. What happens there in the first beat? Instead of going ba-da, it goes ba-da. Does anybody remember what that's called? Very good. Trochee. The first foot is a trochee. And then in the second line, we have the same arrangement. Black as the pit from pole to pole. But then in the third line, we get some regularity. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. Let's see, that word unconquerable, how many syllables is that? Unconquerable soul. So I think that line goes, for my unconquerable soul, for my unconquerable soul. I guess that's it. I think I mentioned last time that the rhyme is very straightforward. It goes me, be, pole, soul, circumstance, chance, allowed, unbowed, and so on for all of the 4 line stanzas, quatrains. I'd like to talk about some other things in this poem, and I want to compare it again to this one here. Whose woods these are, I think I know. The sounds are very soft and smooth. You can hear them there. Woods, oh, house, though. Watch his woods fill up with snow. The W sound is very soft, and the vowels are very soft too, like ooh and oh. Here we have a very different kind of story. You notice that, let me just get my pen out here for a second. You notice that there's a very different kind of sound. In the first line, it's like there's a very different sound. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole. We have a name for this kind of sound. It's called the t sound, the k sound, and the p sound. These are called plosives. And you can sense what you have to do to make these sounds. You have to kind of stop your breath. You have to close everything down and then make an explosive sound. So it goes out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole. There's a lot of spitting going on here. Really, to capture this poem, it's very useful to notice it, right? You don't want to go out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole. You want to really emphasize what's there. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole. And so this one has a kind of angle, a kind of aggression, a kind of explosiveness to it. And recognizing that will help you recite it at the highest level. Something else I'd like to talk about with this poem. It is very useful when you have a rhyme scheme like this. It goes again, A, B, A, B. A, B, A, B. To do something with your voice to kind of capture the rhyme. Here is how I might read this. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be. Do you hear me connecting me and be? So you got to do something with your voice when you get to the end of the line to prepare the ear for the rhyme, to connect the rhyme words. You kind of bring it up and throw it up in the air, and it will land at the moment that you come to the rhyme word. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. Another thing to notice is that you really don't come to the first period until the end of the fourth line. And so really the words, the sounds at the end of the first three lines should not be coming down. You don't want to say, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole. You want to kind of go up. That signals to the reader the thought is still going on. It makes it much clearer when you can do that with your voice. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. Very good. So that's the first one I wanted to talk about, Invictus. The next one I'd like to talk about, let me just move these papers away, is Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. This one's got a real rhythm to it. It's not in four, like Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening or Invictus or Sympathy. It's got a different beat. You can find it here. It starts out, the first lines start out in 2, but then when you get to the last line here, it shifts. You can hear it. It goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. Do you get it? In the last line there, it's really 3. 1, 2, and 3. And it goes on in the next one. Same way in the next one. But a bird that stalks, that goes, but a bird that's, but a let me give you my fingers. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. And so that's something to notice in the first two stanzas. There's some little bit of change in the third one. You've got to figure that out. And the fourth and the fifth are a bit longer. Let's see how long they are. The free bird thinks of another breeze. The free bird thinks of another breeze. Now we're in a 4-beat line. And the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on the dawn-bright lawn. And he names the sky his own. That last line there goes back to 3. Beautiful, beautiful poem. And really, it's almost singing. Can't be done any other way. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends. Nice. And there's one more poem I'd like to talk about today. This is When Death Comes by Mary Oliver. This one doesn't have any rhyme and doesn't have any regular beat. You can't say it's in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, anything like that. It's free verse. But it does have something, I've discovered. It does have something that kind of creates a pattern. And it's called, let me just show you over here on my computer. It's called, how do you think you pronounce that word? If you said anaphora, you're wrong. It's anaphora. And it says here in writing or speech, the deliberate repetition of the first part of the sentence in order to achieve an artistic effect. And we have some nice examples. This is a great website that I really love. It's called literarydevices.net. So much good stuff on the internet. And look at all these beautiful words here. It's so fun just to look through this. And we have some nice examples. There's one example from Charles Dickens, and this is from A Tale of Two Cities. This was mentioned. This very famous sentence was mentioned. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. And you remember on page 100 in our book here in Maya Angelou, when I finished the cookies, she brushed off the table and brought a thick, small book from the bookcase. I had read A Tale of Two Cities and found it up to my standards as a romantic novel. I mean, this is a very young girl reading such a big book. She opened the first page and I heard poetry for the first time in my life. It was the best of times and the worst of times. That's from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, perhaps the most famous sentence in English. And it exhibits this literary device called, how did you pronounce it? Right, anaphora, which is deliberate repetition of the first part of the sentence. And here in this poem, we have a lot of this anaphora. Like, for example, the first line, when death comes. You find it how many times? How many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? When death comes. And, you know, I was talking to my wife, violinist, and I said, what happens, dear, when you are faced with a piece of music where you have some phrase that gets repeated a number of times? She says, when I see that, I realize that I have to give it a slightly different interpretation each time I come across it. And so, like this one, you know, first you might need to just kind of get the idea across what you're talking about. So you might have to say it very slowly and with a lot of emphasis, And just your goal is to get the words across. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn. When death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse. Let's talk for a second. I just want to break into my little discourse about anaphora and talk about the end of this line. And takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me. Well, what do you do at the end of that line, right? This is up to you. You are free to choose. It could be that you take a little pause there, or you just run over into the next line. You notice in this poem that the first stanza has 3 lines, the second has 3, the third has 2, the fourth has 2, and the fifth has 4. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no specific set pattern. So how do you read it? When death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me. That's one way. Or just run it on. And takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me. And takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me. And snaps the purse shut. Here's a third time. When death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, this is fun to practice, but really try to do it when you're reading the same words over and over. When you come upon a case of anaphora, it's great to make it sound a little different each time. And there's plenty more anaphora in this poem. Let me just see if I can show you another one. And therefore I look upon everything. And I look upon. And maybe this is kind of a continuation of it with slightly different words. And I consider. And I think of. Here's some more repetition. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. Each name, comfortable music in the mouth, and each body. So, and each, we have that several times, and each life, and each name, and each body. There's more. Let's see, when it's over. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms when it's over. And then we have, I don't want to. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life. I don't want to wonder if I have made my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened. I don't want to. 3 times we get that. So if you spend a little time, if you are reciting this one, if you spend a little time noticing this principle, it will really help you put together very good reading of this poem. Great, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Hope you're having a great time. And let me know if you have any questions about anything. I'd just like to give Imogen a chance to say goodbye.
Bye.
Great. Have a nice day, everybody. Thank you.